us into session. Mrs. Ford, if you would call the roll.
Chairwoman Robinson, Mrs. Black,
Here.
Mr. Connor,
Here.
Mr. Brown,
Here.
Mrs. Jones,
Here.
Mr. King,
Here.
Mr. Perez,
Here.
Mrs. Faye Robinson,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Here.
Mrs. Thurman,
Here.
Dr. Wingate,
Here.
Superintendent Dr. Robertson.
Here.
Okay, we need to approve the agenda. There is one item that's added under 5B, recognition of National Merit Scholars. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion.
Second.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Everybody.
Ms. Ford?
Mrs. Black,
Yes.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Perez,
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman,
Yes.
Dr. Wingate.
Yes.
We had our executive session earlier this afternoon. Our pledge to the flag and meditation, Emily Baker, our principal at Brown Academy.
Could everyone please stand for our pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So Dr. Robertson, Dr. Stewart, members of the board, I think this is my third time doing the pledge and doing the meditation in 24 years. And so my meditation sort of came together in a very serendipitous way. Dr. Robertson and Dr. Stewart gave us copies of the new Opportunity 2030 strategic plan on Wednesday during principals meeting, and interestingly enough, those are my kids. And so when I went home Wednesday night, I started flipping through this because I wanted to spend a little more time than we were able to during the session. And on page 13, I kind of paused and looked because page 13 talks about our values. And those values are integrity, excellence, inclusiveness, care, collaboration, and stewardship. And interestingly enough, I'm a big fan of Dr. Brene Brown, and I'm reading her Dare to Lead book for the second time. And I just finished the chapter on values. And this is what she says about values. She says, living into our values means that we do more than profess our values, we practice them. We walk our talk. We are clear about what we believe and hold important. We take care of our intentions, words, thoughts, and behaviors align with those beliefs. Interestingly enough, the name of her chapter is Daring Leaders Who Live into Their Values Are Never Silent About Hard Things.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Exemplars of excellence, Coach James.
Good evening, Vice Chair Smith, distinguished board members. It is my pleasure to introduce you to our wrestling state champs, individual state champions for this year. We have 4 out of Hamilton County. We have 3 brothers from Signal Mountain and 1 outstanding young man from Red Bank. So this time I'm going to introduce, I'll go down the list here, tell you about the Urichuk family. It's quite a lengthy list of accomplishments. They've got a brother that's already at West Point that was a state champion last year. The youngest one-time state champion is a 9th grader, is Joseph Urichuk. Joseph. His older brother, a 3-time state champion, he won it as an 8th grader. He's in 10th grade this year, is Mr. Ethan Urichuk. And the oldest Yurchuk brother that's still at Signal Mountain High School. Also a 4-time state champion, Mr. Caleb Yurchuk. I don't know if Caleb wants me to, I'm going to brag on him for a minute. He got his acceptance letter from United States Military Academy at West Point on Monday. So he will be joining his brother up there as well. Our last state champion out of Hamilton County Schools is 182 pounders, Mr. Colby Smith, who's just 11th grade, and he's from Red Bank High School. They are accompanied by their coaches tonight. They have Coach Satterfield and Coach Camus here from Red Bank. Coach Clements is a new papa and was unable to make it tonight. So anyway, we're really proud of these fellas, and just keep representing Hamilton County in a positive way. And thanks for all you do for us.
Coach James, what weight classes are the three brothers?
13, 113, 126, and 132. Guys, we're going to get a picture of you right up here, please.
I know, can you imagine Saturday mornings? I just can't.
Congratulations.
The older brother.
Chairman Smith, if it's okay, I'll take a little bit of responsibility for Coach Como. Trent Como was while I was at Red Bank High School, was a 2016 state champion. So, Trent, proud of you, man.
Yeah, we'll give you responsibility for that. That's cute.
Hey, I got some stories, man, with him and his brother. I'd take some responsibility. No? Don't go there? Okay. All right, thank you for this opportunity for us to recognize the Teachers of the Year this year in Hamilton County. We have three from 3 different schools and 3 different grade bands. This is annually sponsored by the Tennessee Department of Education. I've got David Sikowski. David, you want to go ahead and come up here with us with the credit union, Chattanooga Area Schools Federal Credit Union, that always supports this program for, I don't know, David, 15 years or so. You guys, as long as it's been, as long as it's been doing it. So I'm going to start off with Nolan Elementary, the grades K through 4, and Mara Smith. And Dr. Wilson, are you here? Miss Roden, come on. So, Ms. Roden, I'm going to ask you to say a little bit about Ms. Smith, if you're good
I
with it.
wasn't prepared, but I will. I have been blessed and honored to work with Mara for we were trying to add it up, for 10 years now at 2 different schools. And I was so thankful when she joined us at Nolan. Mara not only has a passion for her students, she meets them every day with joy, professionalism, love, and works her very best to get the best out of them. But she also pours into our staff with her generous heart, and she sponsors our Secret Pals. She runs our staff daycare. She works with our new teachers as a mentor and aligns our new teachers with veteran teachers for the mentorship program. And she's truly just irreplaceable at Nolan, and we're so grateful to have her.
You guys want to just stand over here for a second. And in our grades, middle grades, 5 through 8, we have from CCA, Miss Sandra Howard.
Hi, good evening. I'm Ariel Hayes, Assistant Principal at CCA, and it is truly an honor to represent and just praise Mrs. Howard. She is an absolutely phenomenal teacher. She pours everything into her classroom every single day. When we talk about personalization, this is who we're talking about. She is the epitome of that. She builds relationships like no teacher I've ever seen. And I always tell her that she is such an inspiration to me because she's an amazing mom. She's an amazing wife. And she comes in and she travels very far back and forth every day, but she shows up for our kids. And our kids love her. And they do everything they can to make her happy and please her. And she just is, you're such an inspiration. And we love you so much. Congratulations.
And our high school, Miss Chandler Davenport, and I think Dr. Ware is here. I saw it right here in front of me. So, congratulations. Dr. Ware.
All right, good evening, everyone. What an absolute honor to stand here just this evening and tell you a little bit about Chandler Davenport. For those of you that know me, you know I have a very special quote that I always like to use whenever I'm talking about the excellent work that's done in education. That quote is by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and it says, "An individual has not started living until he or she can rise above the narrow confines of individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity." When I tell you that Chandler Davenport is the exemplary of that quote, she gives every single thing. 210% she pours into her students, her colleagues, families, partners, just anyone that she can rally together to come in and make sure that we thrive we make sure our students thrive and give them the very best that they deserve. We are so proud and honored to have her at the amazing Howard School. And I want to say right here this evening in front of everybody, Tony, stop trying to steal my teacher. She's amazing, and we're so proud to have her. Give it up for Davenport!
So before I turn it over to David to say something, I got the opportunity to go into Miss Smith's room and Miss Howard and Miss Davenport, and it's funny to see the different reactions. Like the elementary kids, they would just ask them what you think about Miss Smith, and they opened up right away. Oh, we love her. They're hugging her like on her legs and everything. Middle school, I didn't know what to expect. Like you can go in middle schools and you never know what you're going to get. But what's so cool about Miss Howard is when the kids, after, not just in her class, but afterwards, we go out into a class change, and it was like every kid walking around was coming up, giving her a hug, loving on her, and that was really cool. And then we go into Miss Davenport, and the high school kids are like, not so. But there was this one girl, and you may not remember this, but one girl in the back that I asked them, like, how would you describe Miss Davenport? And this one girl in the back goes, she's beautiful. And I was like, oh my God, couldn't ask for anything better. So before we get a picture, Mr. Sikowski, if you say something.
Sure, appreciate it. As he mentioned, my name is David Sikowski, and I'm the president and the CEO of the Chattanooga Area Schools Credit Union. And throughout the year, we have the opportunity to partner with the Hamilton County Schools on many occasions, events, and things like this. And it's always our pleasure to do that because it gives us the opportunity to recognize the great teachers and educators that we have in this district here. So on behalf of our credit union's board of directors and our staff, I'm here today to present to each one of you all a check for $500. So that's your little surprise for you today. So again, I'll just bring this over here to you. Now, I want to preface this by saying this is not for your classroom. This is for you and your family. So you spend this on yourself for this great accomplishment that you've earned today. Thank you.
Board members, I don't know if you'd come around. We'd love to get a picture with you guys, all of you, with the teachers of the year and their principals.
Congratulations again.
Congratulations. Well, it takes leadership too.
Everybody come around. Hey, y'all, get up. Come on, they want everybody.
Just show them the road, okay? They don't hurry up, they're not gonna be on big Okay.
I'll step back and let you guys get the winner. You guys go ahead. No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Do we need to get some chairs? I got it.
Just go on in, Marco.
Alright, 1, 2, 3. All smiling. Very well deserved. Thank y'all so much.
So we will continue our celebration by recognizing the National Merit Scholars tonight. Before we introduce these young people, we just have to start out by saying it is a tremendous accomplishment to be a National Merit Scholar. We know the hard work that has gone on for 13 years, right? And it's not just the work of the students, but the work of the parents. And so I know there are parents here in the room, and congratulations to both of you. We have 9 National Merit Scholars in our district. There are 4 that are here tonight. So first, from Chattanooga School for the Arts and Sciences, Vicki Song. From Hamilton County Collegiate at Chat State, we have Othniel Kim. Also from Collegiate, I'm going to get this right, Vraj Patel. Did I get it? And last tonight from the STEM school, Taylor Donan. All right, let's do some pictures. So let's go on, we'll come on up here.
You doing good? Congratulations. Congratulations. Good luck to you. Congratulations. We don't have to know his name. Congratulations. Good job, baby.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Congratulations, that's absolutely amazing. Congratulations.
Congratulations to all the work the parents did, too.
So our board member disclaimer, let's just start to my right, and we'll just go right down the road to whom it may apply.
All right. I declare that I have a relative who works for the school system, and if the board's vote on the budget or policies may have an effect on my relative's employment, even so, I hereby certify that I will cast my vote in the best interest of the school system.
I declare that I have a relative who works for the school system, and the board's vote on budget, policies, etc. may have an effect on my relative's employment. Even so, I hereby certify that I will cast my vote in the best interest of the school system.
I declare that I have a relative who works for the school system and that the board's vote on budget, policies, etc. may have an effect on my relative's employment. Even so, I hereby certify that I will cast my vote in the best interest of the school system.
I declare that I have relatives who work for the school system and that the board's vote on all items may have an effect on my relative's employment. Even so, I hereby certify that I will cast my vote in the best interest of the school system.
I declare that I have a family member who works for the school system and the board's vote on budget, policies, etc. may affect my family member's employment. Even so, I hereby certify I will cast my vote in the best interest of the school system.
I declare that I have a family member who works for the school system and that the board's vote may have an effect on my relative's employment. Even so, I hereby certify that I will cast my vote in the best interest of the school system.
Okay, takes us down to the consent agenda. Any items we need to pull before we approve that?
Don't you have to
consent
approve it first?
Have to do a motion in a second
Okay,
first.
and then we pull, okay.
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
I'm sorry. Who seconded?
Larry.
Okay, thank you. Any
Do we need
items
to vote?
Any items that need to be pulled?
Now items to pull.
Yeah, no, I'd like to pull D4.
Did you say D4?
D4.
D4, approval of school fees under Section 7.
Anyone else?
That's the same one I was going to pull, so.
Under Section 8.
No, that's administrative.
Oh, that's administrative. Never mind.
Okay. So roll call?
Mrs. Black?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones? Yes. Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Perez?
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Sermon?
Yes.
Dr. Wingate?
Yes.
And now we want to look at D4.
Yes. So my question about this, school fees, there's a art, science, technology fee that's charged to students. But we have a couple schools, Sequoia High School and Harrison Bay Future Ready Center. They have students that are there part-time. Now Sequoia also has a few full-time students, and they do get their fees from them. But the students that go to those two schools part-time, they go half the day, and then their zone schools half the day. They actually take their science and their technology classes at those schools, and those schools get no money out of that fee. The zone school keeps all that money. So I'd like, it's a $25 fee for art, technology, and science. I'd like to see at least $15 of that 25 go toward the vocational or future ready school out of the $25 fee, if that's possible.
So,
Are you making a motion for that?
Yes, I guess if that's the thing, I'd like to make a motion that $15 out of the 25 to those two schools would be allowing them to collect those fees for the science and technology that they teach within their school to those students. It's two schools. It's Sequoia High School and Harrison Bay Future Ready Center.
Are those the schools you want to get the money, or?
Go ahead, Dr. Robertson.
So, I think we could do this probably without a motion. One of the issues that, just talking to Mary Ellen about, it might be easier for us to collect the fees and then split them from there and just transfer dollars between schools. When you and I spoke about this earlier, this
Right.
is something that we're trying to figure out, even with things like the staffing model, because we're sending kids half of the day to Sequoia and to Harrison Bay. And we're figuring out ways to maneuver it. I think we can, I hear your intent. I think I see a lot of head shaking of like, it makes sense. I think we could do it just from an administrative standpoint, knowing the board's intent is that we support Sequoia and Harrison Bay for the students are getting that are taking these courses.
And that would be fine with me. I just know those two, especially in the area of science. Now, technology often get Perkin grants and some of the other funding, but the science, those two schools' sciences are bleak. So I'd like to see funds go to those.
So, Mr. King, would you like to withdraw your motion?
Yes, I'll withdraw that.
Any other comments, Ms. Rhonda?
Yes, of course, this has always been one of my pet peeves, all the school fees. I know we've talked in the past about the athletic fees. It just, some of those are just ridiculous. The parents are having to raise money all the time for their kids to pay athletics. I just wish there was some way we could compensate these schools more for these. I don't know if there's to buy uniforms. I know I never had to buy a uniform when I played basketball or anything else in high school, volleyball. We always had them provided. But anyway, that's something I think we need to look at. But another thing on this that kind of caught my eye was the senior fees. Some of these schools charge $175, some $180, some $160, and some $25. I'm not sure why. I don't know that I've ever noticed that before. Has that usually been on here for the fees? I don't remember there being such a discrepancy here on some of these fees. I'm not sure what the fees go for. And
if you remember in the past, and we've reined some of these in, the one
Yes,
that
we
we
have.
used to always go back and forth on was the parking fees. 'Cause
Yeah,
those-
right. And so all the parking fees are all 25, which I'm glad to see finally.
I think that with the senior fee is different schools are doing different things for seniors.
Okay.
So it's not like a parking spot is a parking spot,
No.
right? I mean, some of them.
Even though I don't agree with the parking fees either, but that's okay.
I know, but that one's a little bit easier,
Yeah.
I mean, to bring to say $25 spot should be the same $25 spot
Right.
at any school. Where senior fees, some schools are doing bigger things than other schools are.
Well, with some of these, like I say, with some of these kids, do they not get to graduate if they don't pay that? I wonder, or something, that we can't do that. I start saying, I want to be sure that's not happening.
Yeah.
That's just what I want to be sure. Okay. All right, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, I need a motion to approve D4.
Motion to approve.
Second,
Second.
roll call.
Mrs. Black,
Yes.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Perez,
Yes.
Mrs. Faye Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Sermon,
Yes.
Dr. Wingate.
Yes.
Okay, that takes us down to administrative matters. Dr. Parker?
Dr. Parker took off. This is just an amendment to the charter for Chattanooga Prep. It has something to do with them moving, the schools that are moving to Knoxville and just renaming the organization. There's nothing significant about the partnership or the agreement that we have. It's more about their name and their school they're opening in Knoxville.
Okay. So it wasn't something that we were gonna need to vote on, just a report.
Well, you do have to vote on approving their charter amendment because you've approved the charter and the name is changing, so you've got to approve that we accept the new agreement.
Okay. I'll entertain that motion.
I just have one quick.
Okay, go ahead.
Just one quick question. Did Chattanooga Prep, the entity that's doing it, I know that that was going before the Knox County Board of Education. Is it because it's going before them, or have they approved it?
I don't know if Knox County has approved or not. It's essentially, if you look at the bottom, oh, Kelly, yes. Sorry, I thought you had left too.
Good evening. Yes, Chat Prep has applied to Knox County to open Knox Prep. And so when they have the two schools, just by nature of having two schools, the nonprofit that supports the charter school then becomes a management organization. And so the board is remaining the same local board members that we have. They're actually going to reduce a little bit, and they'll remain, Chattanooga centralized board. And then the little bit of governance difference is they'll have a local advisory, thank you, board that will not vote. And Brad Scott is here, the CEO of Chat Prep.
My only question was, has Knox County approved the charter?
I think the vote is April 6th.
April 6th, okay. That was
your question.
Yeah, I just didn't know if we were doing it preemptively or because.
It's preemptively, yes.
I didn't know Brad Scott was here either, so Brad, director.
Any other questions?
Okay, motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Mrs. Black?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Perez?
Yes.
Mrs. Faye Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Dr. Wingate?
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Brown, Chief Talent Officer.
Thank you, members of the board. The new positions there, I just want a little clarification for you. Currently, with Dr. Russell's department, talking about the new positions, the Director of the Seat Support, the School Social Work Lead, and Integrated Student Support Lead, I want to give you just a little bit more information about those new positions. And in essence, it's really preparing for our 2030 strategic plan. Every student belongs. That's where these roles will fall under, of supporting our students. Currently, we have 6 FTEs that we call, lost the train of thought. We have 6 FTEs that's our seat facilitators. We're really repurposing those positions, so let me explain. 3 of those positions we have personnel that's already in those chairs. 4th position out of those 6, if we will repost to backfill. 5th position is we are elevating a role. We're elevating a role to the director, that's the Director of the Seat Support, to oversee that department. And then the 6 positions we're not backfilling, we're actually repurposing those funds in order to compensate for the director role. So I wanted you to know that this was just us trying to be very transparent, that we've reworked those job descriptions, the realignment to better use our assets to ensure that we're giving the support we need for the faculty and the students and the staff members we have for the school. So, any questions on those?
Mr. Perez?
Just briefly, because some of the comments that were made earlier were about the approval of the seed roles in the schools. I understand we've already approved those, right, in the past?
You've approved those job descriptions. I think
Okay.
what some of the speakers were talking about is in the staffing model, there is a seed position at every school. That you'll see that again in the budget. So this is not that position.
No, I know,
But it
that's
is
why-
the back support for.
But
yeah,
I
that theory
don't
of back
remember if it was last month or the month before. I
Yes.
do remember approving
Right. The job description.
the job description. Okay, so
Right.
that's where I was confused today. But
So anytime there is a new job description, we've said that we will bring it to you. This is a new job description. Dr. Brown explained, the funding is there, the chairs are there, but it is a new job description.
Okay.
So we're bringing it to you for approval.
Understood.
Ms. Robinson?
Okay, I believe you've answered my question. You said there were 6 people, 6 positions, and they are no new hires.
Well, currently we have 6 FTEs for 22-23. We currently call them seat facilitators. So under the realignment, 3 of the chairs, 3 of the personnel's current employees are going to maintain in that role with adjusted roles. But we do have a vacancy that we'll be backfilling. And then a 5th chair, we're elevating a position. It's vacated now. We're elevating that position to the Director of Seat Support. And then the sixth chair, we're not. So it's really, we're going from 6 to 5, but acknowledging we are elevating one of those chairs to the director role.
Okay, because my math did not add up, but the way you explained it, it does.
Yes, ma'am.
For those who aren't familiar with, SEED is in addition to academics.
Yes, ma'am, and you know, if we want to break down, I've got Dr. Russell with me as well, so if we want to, you know, go into the actual job description, she'll be more than happy to explain, but it's social emotional academic support, yes, ma'am. So goes under our category of every student belongs, and so it's really all about making sure that our students are ready to learn, right? When they go to the classroom, they're ready to learn, providing all those needs, so our students feel supported.
Well, there's so many pros and cons of it, and I just wanted to kind of help lay it out so that the public would understand it better, as well as myself. How much time do you think the SELs will need in the classroom?
Dr. Russell,
are there certain areas where they can take a child or out of this classroom, or that's what I'd like to hear.
Understood.
So I'll start and I'll let Dr. Russell kind of come behind. So the movement from SEL to SEED, that social emotional academic development, was very intentional. And it really contends that a child needs to be ready to learn in order to learn, so that you really don't separate how our kids relate to each other, how they talk to each other, how they manage themselves, how they interact. You can't really separate that from learning. And so this particular role is going to build the capacity of our school-based roles to help teachers do that thing, right? And so there's not a time frame on it. Sometimes we do morning meetings, and that's a connecting space. But a teacher can also at any point say, hey guys, turn to your partner and have this conversation. Or if there's a conflict, have them resolve it. That happens all the time in our classrooms, and it's not a separate person. Our teachers do a lot of that, but some of these roles will supplement that in classrooms, supporting teachers who maybe struggle with that connection or struggle to help facilitate kind of those experiences for our kids.
I'm wanting to help the teachers is where I was going with that question.
And I definitely think Dr. Stewart covered it. The only thing that I would add is that we really want to put an emphasis on the way that our students interact with one another. So we have 3 domains that we really look at: student-to-student connections, student to educators, and student to community. But our goal is just to make sure that our kids feel that they're connected.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Crone?
You know, I would have liked to have had this information prior to right now when we're supposed to vote on this. It's just like I had to request what the salaries for these positions were going to be plus benefits. So now I don't know, and maybe the board doesn't know, what you say these current positions are SEED facilitators. Well, what are they currently getting in salaries and benefits?
Part of this is we're getting caught up in like budget conversations and job descriptions. Like, these are the job descriptions. If we get to the budget and we want to say, yeah, this isn't where we want to invest in positions, that is the budget conversation, right? We still have that level of say and voice from the board in that. But again, we've talked about we've talked about this for a while now, that if we're bringing in a new position, we're going to bring you a job description, and that's what we're following through with. If we waited till the budget, gets approved to bring in a job, then we're pushing everything back several months. If we want, if there's discussion on the board that we don't want to go this direction, there's still another layer at the board, the budget discussion, to say we don't want to go that way. And maybe it's a mistake on our part. I think we're getting caught up on the language here, and maybe that is like what we should name this something different. But what we have consistently heard from teachers, from our community, and quite frankly from this board, is that we're worried about student behavior. The staffing model, no one's talking about this, but the staffing model is a direct investment in trying to improve student behavior. We probably should have just called this a student support person, or a student connections. And if that's the will of the board, I would be glad to change it, because I think it's getting caught up in a lot of rhetoric that this is not the intent of the position. The intent of this position is to support kids, to make sure that they're ready to learn, and to support teachers when kids aren't ready to learn, to pull them out and get them ready to learn. So if the name seed is getting caught up, like, I'll be glad to step back and say, let's change the name of it and say Student Connections Specialist. But the intent is to support kids.
Well, I understand that, but, in our back and forth conversations, it would have been nice to know this, that we're elevating people,
Yeah, well,
not putting out new hires.
duly noted. And I will say for those 3 positions, everything starts with salary, comes from their certificated roles, and so it's a certified teacher, and so everything's our base pay is from certified. So, but I understand in the future, I'll try to give you a little more information there.
Well, and that just leads me to the whole issue of social emotional learning. Because, I've researched and thought about this a lot. It's really difficult to find any, what I would consider, valid research on the efficacy of social emotional learning. And I fully understand and have seen myself the needs and heard from teachers and staff the need for more emotional health issue support for kids because of how they're impacted by the severe changes that we've seen in just our social culture. But let me just say this. In Alan Broom wrote this in The Closing of the American Mind. Every educational system has a moral goal that it tries to attain and that informs its curriculum. It wants to produce a certain kind of human being. And really, in my opinion, what SEL is really referring to when we look at what we're trying to achieve is that it's really psychiatric, cognitive dissonance therapy. That's really what it is. And Castle has been mentioned here tonight. They're one of the foremost proponents of SEL. That's what their name stands for. The Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. And you can go on YouTube right now and hear this quote from their current CEO. We see SEL as a tool for anti-racism. That's a direct quote. So my question is, what type of morals and virtues and goals do we plan to instill in our students through SEL? It's like we've had this conversation before, one-on-one, about it's not what you're doing, it's how you're doing it. And we had a long conversation about how the curriculum from EL education, the unit for Peter Pan, has changed from when you and I learned about Peter Pan. And that's the type of stuff I'm talking about. And so, yeah, we can teach social emotional learning, that's based upon, no moral imperatives and everything is moral relativism. We can do that. We can allow it to drift into our curriculum without any oversight. So, my big question is, what morals, what virtues, and what ethics, and whose ethics are we going to teach through social and emotional learning? And how are we going to also impact our discipline issues, which you have stated many times that many of our schools have a severe problem with discipline. And I think, in my opinion, we're having that because of some of our restorative practices, which is I believe is putting a majority of our students at risk and makes their learning environment unsafe. So that's a lot to talk about and there are a lot of issues involved. But we got to get a handle on this and do this the right way.
So I agree.
And we can have a discussion about what is the right way. But I have a really hard time with it. And I'm really torn because I've seen it as a teacher in 3 different states, the same problem. You know, and that was I'm dating myself because it's been so long since I've retired. But I hear it from the teachers and the staff in more than just the schools in my district. And you know, my question is, we're going to add these if we vote for it, either now or in the budget. And you know, considering what cognitive behavioral therapy is, that's usually a psychiatric treatment. And what we've been expecting is that our teachers are supposed to put forth this program, and they have no training in it except maybe a few professional development hours. So I have a lot of issues with this, which we'll talk about more during the budget, and as usual, I have more to say, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So I would, in terms of the values, I think that we've been very clear with Opportunity 2030, what our values are and what we expect. And our goal is that all children thrive and experience a future without limits. And in terms of the end product, if you look at a portrait of a graduate, that's what our end product should look like, right? And so there's nothing that we're trying to like hide in here. And we talk about the seed competencies, you know, we're sitting here and what we're talking about is self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, positive decision-making, and positive relationships. That's what I'm saying. That's what we're talking about in Hamilton County. And we could talk about what, you know, Castle or what, that's not what we're talking about, right? That we're talking about very simple things that we can all agree on, but we're getting distorted by, you know, this side or that side. This is about all children thrive and experience a future without limits. And all we want to do is look at a portrait of a graduate, and that's what we want for each and every one of our kids.
Well, I got a personal letter written to me from someone. Well, I got contacted by 2 people out in my district, one by email and one by a personal letter. And both of them said, well, we watched Opportunity 2030, and they said not one thing was spoken about academics. It was all about...
That is completely...
That's not true. I was there.
I was there
they
too.
didn't watch what I watched.
But that was their impression of
I understand
And
what
they heard
what
what they
they're-
wanted.
you know,
That's not
again,
fair. That's not
we
fair.
we can go back and
Ms.
forth
Russell,
here.
don't leave yet, please.
We can go back and forth on this, but there is academics, but even, I mean, it's hard to argue with people's hierarchy of needs.
Right.
Nobody can argue with that. We've got to, you can't learn if you're not fed. If your basic needs are, and we can fight, I mean, Mr. Smith and I texted back and forth about this today. Like, our kids have needs, and I understand it's not our responsibility to parent kids. It's not our responsibility to put clothes on the back of kids. But these are the needs our kids are coming with. So what do? Do we turn our head to them?
I don't think so.
And quite frankly, if that's what this board wants, you've got the wrong people doing this work.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. King?
Yes. So kind of helping with this a little bit and checking into it, we've got these positions that are being renamed because in our staffing model, we are adding positions. So Ms. Russell, who's been over social workers, over seed, and over counselors, is now her counselor numbers are probably close to gonna double, or not quite that many, but how many now with every school going to have it in their base? How many counselors will you be over now?
So we're not increasing counselors by a ton. I think we're adding roughly about 10 counselors or so.
Okay, and then schools can choose in their supplemental to add. I know one of my high schools is going to be adding another spot. And then social workers, those numbers are growing.
Yes.
We're adding more social workers, which is a different skill set than a counselor.
Yes.
And then SEED. So kind of in a just general layman's terms, SEED's going to be there in the morning when the student comes in and has a blow up and needs somebody before they get into those behavior issues. That's a SEED kind of duty. And a counselor's there for I look at the duties as two different. The counselor's there for personal issues and the SEED's there for behavioral issues. And kind of, I know that's a very general statement, but to kind of give a little better picture of that. But I guess where I'm going with this, we're opening up these positions from seats that were already present, but to allow for some director and guidance in these because we're adding new positions to them with the staffing model.
Absolutely.
All
If
right,
you
thank
just go back to the 3 areas that we talked about, helping students to feel connected, I think that'll help with a broader understanding of the work that we're trying to do. So we definitely want our kids to feel like they have a place in their school and they have at least one person that they feel strongly connected with. So when you start to talk about school counselors can help do that work, but they can't do it all alone. And then social workers can do that work. They can't do it by themselves. So we're creating a collaborative group of individuals that can support our kids as well as our families to make sure that we're connected. So it takes all of us to educate our kiddos, not just one personnel or two.
I just wanted to bring that out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Connor?
Thank you, Vice Chair. So I've also struggled to figure out what's the right way to explain what this position is to people when they ask about it. And I think that for the first time, I heard exactly what I'm going to say from now on earlier in a delegation. And if we're thinking of a name change, it's literally just coach. Like, it's another coach. That was the best way to describe it. I didn't even hear the next sentence she said because I was immediately thinking about my summer league swim coach. If he had been walking through the halls, helping me to figure out if I was prepared for the next class, if I was ready for the next math test, if there was somebody that I had that level of emotional connection to. That's literally what you have with your coaches, is that emotional connection. I know, Joe, I see you nod. I know you got it with your hitters when you're standing in the corner with them. It's such a connection to have that coach. And I think that that's the best way I heard to think about it, is this is a coach that's helping me at school. My sport is scholastics. How can I get there?
Mr. Wingate? Sorry.
Yeah, I said this last time. Like, I think we're way overcomplicating this. Like, there's a couple things going on here. One, it's an approval of a position. I think we as a board forget sometimes that when it comes time to approve a budget, you can negate 6 months worth of planning in one meeting if that's what you choose to do. So that's the trump card, number one. Number two, I'm about as black and white as they come, and I want for my kids to go to school and be in an environment that is conducive to academic instruction and excellence in that arena every day. I also know that teachers have to deal with what walks through the door every day. And what walks through the door every day, and I've had this conversation with folks here at the district, and you know, we can say we wish it were better. It's not going to get better. It's just not. It's just not. And it's not just here. It's all over the country. It's not getting better. And so as a teacher, what I want is to be able to, in my space, do what I've been trained and licensed to do. A licensed professional to teach in a content area. And when that is disrupted for whatever reason, I want to have a resource that can, and I don't know the best way to say this because I know people get so tied up in words, but can remove that issue for however long that needs to happen. If it's 10 minutes, if it's a full class period, if it's 3 days, if it's 2 weeks. Because as a trained and licensed professional, I'm not equipped to deal with that. Although for years, teachers have had to do those things. They've had to be fundraisers. They've had to be psychologists. They've had to be parents. They've had to be so many things. That's why you see teachers leave education and many times are highly successful in whatever other field they go to because they've got a tremendous skill set that they've had to acquire in a classroom and in a public school setting. But I too think that so much of this we're tripped up on verbiage, and I'm just done listening to the hypersensitive buzzwords that get thrown out there. I'll make the suggestion we absolutely change the name of this because for whatever reason, people can't see the forest for the trees. I made the comment, I think either last month or 2 months ago. I first heard of positions like this 2 years ago from a school district in Northeast Tennessee that you would not dream would be dealing with issues that they dealt with, and they cannot live without them now. And so, again, if it's an individual in the building who's able to do a variety of things but can immediately address a student to help them get what they need so that other students, and I hear all of that, get what they need every day so that their learning's not held hostage every day. And so that then even that individual who's a frontline individual has the network and has the ability to quickly connect that student with the help that they need. So again, that everybody else can do the job that they're there to do. And if these positions come into being and we see that they are something other than what they've been proposed to be, then we have, as a board, have the ability to address that. I haven't seen or heard anything from the conversations around these positions that give me pause other than the enormous amount of conversation around their name. So let's just change the name. But I know at East Hamilton Middle School or at Westview Elementary School, if there's an individual in that building that can address issues that come through the door that aren't school related, so that my students can learn better, and then that individual eventually on the back end of whatever assistance they get are then able to also join them and learn better, hey, I'm all for it.
Ms. Black?
You know, I hear a lot that teachers want to teach, and I hear that so much, and I want to give that to teachers. I want teachers to be able to go back to focusing on teaching. And the way I see what's been done in the staffing model is providing a staffing infrastructure that is focused on student well-being the same way that our teachers are focused on academic achievement. And it provides the support on the other side. We can't change what goes on at home. And we have to recognize that our students are not walking test scores, right? They're whole little people with whole little lives, and they bring all of that stuff to school with them. And we can't change what goes on at home, but we can provide resources at school to help them deal with what life is throwing at them. We can't, by having these support staff that are focused on student well-being in the building, helping these children deal with whatever it is that they're bringing in their little emotional backpack to school with them every day, that's going to help them be ready to learn. That's going to give them the skills and relieve some of the burden so that they can concentrate and learn the new math curriculum. It might not appear from the outside to be something that a school should be in the business of doing because the school is in the business of learning. Yes, our job is to make sure that our students are thriving in all areas so that they can excel and reach their fullest potential. And by providing these supports for our staff and our students, we are meeting a need that is so clearly there. All of us have talked about it. All of us have talked about the behavior needs. All of us have talked about the emotional needs. And we have been asking our teachers to practice outside their license, right? But social workers are licensed. School counselors are licensed and certified. These are licensed professionals who do deal with these things every day and can provide the support. And honestly, I think it's an excellent investment for our students and our staff.
Mr. Thorne?
Yes. I don't have a problem with the name. I don't care what you call it, really, myself. My thing is this. It says, one of these says, this job will support and coach educators to improve overall behavior proficiency. Well, my questions I have about things like that is, well, what does that mean? If we're going to keep doing what we've been doing for as far as behavior is concerned, nothing's going to change. I don't care if you hire 5 more people to do it. If how we're going to deal with behavior problems is if we're going to keep doing what we've been doing, then what's the point of getting one more person to try to do something that's not working now? So are they going to be trained? Are we still going to be doing restorative justice? Are we still going to be doing the things that we're doing now? Are we going to change? So that's the kind of questions that I have. Like I say, some of these schools have 4 assistant principals. If 4 assistant principals, a principal, a dean of students, and an executive principal, and all this can't get a handle on discipline, I don't know what one more person's going to do. Because I think it's the way that we handle the behavior, because some of these teachers, their problem is, they said the administration, they get no administration support. So if they're not getting any administrative support, what is adding one more person going to do to that? I mean, those are the questions I have. I don't really care what you call it. I'm just looking at, we have all of these, already have these support people. And like I say, when I got on the board, some of our schools didn't even have 1 assistant principal. Now some of them have 4. And we still can't and we hired those assistant principals to help with discipline. And then you have to get another one to help that person to help that one with discipline. Then you have to have another one. And I'm just like, where does it end? Maybe it's what we're doing that's the problem and not the people doing it.
So I don't disagree with you, and I think this is a strategy among strategies. I mean, one of the things that we've talked about openly here is the need for more alternative seats, which you'll see in the budget, significant investment in more alternative seats. So this is one strategy aimed at improving culture in our school and improving student behavior.
Ms. Jones?
So I hear, and we have heard for a while now, what the teachers want, what we want, what the district administration says they want. I said in a presentation this morning, the group of professionals from police officers to firefighters to social workers to domestic violence counselors, to teachers, public health officials, and they've been working on a project for over a year now, trying to figure out how to help our students or our youth in Hamilton County as it relates to youth gun violence and youth violence. And so they've been working, they did all these focus groups, and based on the body of work that they were doing and the cohorts they did, Hamilton County, very impressive, the people that were doing this work actually exceeded the contact amount by 226%, just going out actually talking to the population that they were trying to figure out a solution to support. And those were our children. And they met with groups like YCAP, Girls Inc., Boys and Girls Club, churches, centers, schools. They went all across the county talking to students. And today, a group of 8th graders were present at this, I guess unveiling you call it, or whatever you call it, presentation. You know, it was the initial thing. And listening to those children, and they represented pretty much, there were Hispanic children, there were Black children, there were Caucasian children. I mean, all races and cultures were represented. And in listening to them, they were saying that in the data and the reports they had showed that the children, the students, are saying that they need someone that they feel are safe people for them. And they are saying it doesn't discredit my parents, it doesn't discredit my grandma, it doesn't discredit my principal, it doesn't discredit, you know, Mr. Eric at the center. But in the moment when I'm in a building and something has triggered me, or I'm having some type of emotion, or something's happened in my neighborhood or next door in my home the night before or the morning of, I need to know that there is somebody in that building that I can talk to that doesn't have to rush off, that doesn't have something else to attend to, that can make me a priority at that moment, to talk to me and then help me figure out who can take me or help me throughout the rest of the day or the week or whatever is going on. 8th grade, 13 and 14-year-old children were saying this. And so I think that's very important. So I agree with Mr. Wingate that, that's right, Dr. Wingate, but I agree with Joe that I don't really care what you call it. You can call him Mr. Rogers, Mr. Belvedere, George and Wheezy. All I'm saying is, the children are saying this. And when you talk to the officers who talk to these young men and women who end up in our juvenile justice system, or in group homes, or living off of 11th Street at the shelter, they're just saying, if I had just had someone. Because what I know is that all of us sitting here, no matter how hard our lives may have been or things we experienced, we all have a level of privilege. And as I continue to work with children, I realize that even though, and my mom probably watching, I love her to death. She rides me. My mom has been, she's old school. She's been on me since day one. But I was blessed to have that. I thought she was mean some days. But I experienced children who don't have that. Never had it, long for it. So I think we have to think about what the children are saying they need, what our students are saying they need, and listen to the people that are in the buildings with them, because some of us are not in the buildings with our kids. We just hear what everybody else tell us, and I'm just being honest. Some of us don't go into the buildings. Some of us ain't at the games when they fighting at the end of the game. Some of us are not there. So we're just hearing what everybody else, what the days of the world, I hate the days of the world, have to say that our kids need. And then we go home into the confines of our home where our children or the children in our lives have what they need. So I think we have to think about what the kids are saying. So name it whatever you want to name it. Call it whatever you want to call it. I ain't popular around these parts anyway these days. So I'm going to vote for it because in my professional life, I know that this is valuable. In my civic life, I know that this is valuable. And as a mother, if my child grows up and he feels like he can't talk to me or his father or anyone that loves him, that somebody's going to be in a building that he can trust to have a conversation that may save or change the trajectory of his life. Because I'm not voting for just today. I'm voting for what's going on in the near future. And I think we have to think about that. Like, not what we want, because we out of high school. Some of us ain't even raising kids no more. But you ain't raising them. I mean, I'm just saying, people have grandkids, but some raised, some ain't. But I'm just saying. It's a vested interest. It's a difference. So we have to think about that and hear what they're saying they need. Because they know what they need better than we do.
Mr. Connor?
Keeping in mind that this is for the students and trying to take one hurdle out of the way, I would like to make a motion, Mr. Vice Chair, to change the name to student coach.
Academic and emotional.
Joe, I had someone send me, said the targeted instruction for academics and behavior is what they call theirs in some schools.
Okay, why don't we...
Targeted instruction for academics and behavior.
I mean, that's something to talk about later on, right?
Yeah.
I think, I mean, if you approve it, we'll be happy to take names, like figure out a better name and
Could I
bring it back.
revise my motion and say that I'd make a motion that we have names to go over next meeting? I don't know. I
Honey,
like
just
student
move
coach.
to approve this
I
with,
would
with an
like to
amendment that
call
we
the
might change the
vote.
name.
That's what I would like to do. I would
Let's,
like to vote.
let's try to not get too far ahead of ourselves and finish.
If we could approve this, and then if there's a will of the board to work on names, we can do
Okay,
that.
but I still have a couple of folks that want to speak to this, so let's finish this conversation and then we'll move to that. So, Ms. Robinson?
Well, my question is there an expense to change the material that's published regarding it?
No, it's all posted online, so it'd be
Oh,
simple.
okay. All right, thank you.
Being no more lights, I would just say that, I think I've been a seed coach for about 40 years.
Absolutely. Yes, you have, Mr.
Yes, you
Bowden.
have.
Absolutely.
I think I was the seed coach to Dr. Robert Sharp about 1987, 88.
I wouldn't use that as my standard, but that's okay.
So it's your fault.
But I will say this, all kids aren't gonna need a seed coach. They're just not, but some are. And you've heard me say this before, some of you. When I was growing up, my monsters were pretend. You know, it was the boogeyman under the bed. But man, we got kids that come to school every day whose monsters are real. Are real. And it's getting worse. It's not getting better. It's getting worse. We can't legislate morality. It's never going to happen. And it's not going to change until that which is perfect has come. I think we're going in the right direction. I think we need somebody else to intervene so the teacher can teach math and science. Dr. Brown has requested some new positions. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second. Yeah.
I withdraw my motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Yes.
Mr. Connor,
Vehemently, yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Perez,
Yes.
Mrs. Faye Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman,
No.
Dr. Wingate,
Yes.
So I think what I'm maybe hearing, Dr. Robertson, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you guys think through a different name or tag to put on this and bring back some recommendations. And if any of us have a recommendation, then reach out to Dr. Robertson and share your thoughts about that. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay.
I don't think it's necessary.
So that takes us down to board policies. Shannon Moody, I need to recognize you. These are all, it looks like first read. Anything you want to point out, or?
No, actually, they're all first read, and so if you guys see anything or if you want to pull something tonight, I'm happy to take it. Yes, we do have one clarification that came through my email that I wasn't able to get changed, so.
Just very briefly, on the first one listed, 5.400, the communicable disease policy, there's actually a statute that went into effect in 2021 that needs to be, I apologize, that needs to be referenced in there, and it's, and I sent the language to Shannon, and I have a copy of the statute if anyone would like to look at it, but it essentially, let me just pull this up. The statute went into effect November 2021, and it is currently, it currently expires July 1st of this year. I don't know if it will get extended or not, but what it says in essence is that a school may not require someone to wear a face covering unless certain requirements are met. And so the additions to be made, the addition to be made would be page 1, line 17, at the end of the proposed new sentence. It would be, apologize, I'm trying to get there on my document. Here we go. it would then say, at the end of the proposed new sentence, it would be continued to say, except the wearing of face coverings shall not be required unless in accordance with the provisions set forth in 10 Code Ann 14-2-104. And then a third footnote would be added to reference that statute. And the second change I noted that again references that statute would be again on page 1 of 5.400, and it would be down to where the bullet points are toward the bottom. It would be bullet point 3, where it says the employee wears all necessary and appropriate protective equipment. The proposal would be to change that to say the employee wears all necessary and appropriate protective equipment while on school campus, except the wearing of face coverings shall not be required unless in accordance with the provisions set forth in 10 Code Ann 14-2-104. So it would be identical addition to what I just noted in the slightly above on page 1. So that's the only thing, yes, that I noted that didn't make it onto the agenda here. Does anybody have any questions about that?
So you'll make those corrections for us?
I was gonna say, we'll make sure that the second read that you guys get in the agenda has that as red line, so you can see it on there before you have the ability to approve.
Can you send that to us as soon as you make the corrections?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a question for Ms. Shannon? Thank you. That takes us down to board matters. Mary Ellen?
So this is just a required approval of where we kind of stand on the ESSER things, where we just have to do that every 6 months to continue to move those funds forward.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Ford?
Mrs. Black?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Perez?
Yes.
Mrs. Faye Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurman?
Yes.
Dr. Wingate?
Yes.
Okay, that takes us down to events and announcements.
I have an announcement.
Okay, go ahead.
Brainerd is advancing on to play again tomorrow. So send good vibes.
Okay. And that's in Murfreesboro?
And chat prep too. Yeah, and chat prep too.
Well, everything is printed there. I guess just for the record, I'll read these out in case if you don't have them in front of you. Friday, March 17th, report cards. That's the kids' favorite day. And then, of course, we'll be on spring break, April 3 through 6. Monday, April the 10th is our next budget.
No, March 28th.
Excuse me.
Go left to right.
I'm going left to right, okay. March 28th is a budget committee. And then, again, spring break 3 through 6. Friday the 7th is a holiday, Good Friday. Monday, April 10th, it would be the next budget committee meeting. And then we have a board work session on budget on April the 20th. And then our regular April session. Anything else?
Mr. Joe?
Yes.
I do have one thing. We will try to have a policy committee meeting in April because these will be coming up for second read, so just be on the lookout for that.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
We stand adjourned.
Thank you.